behalf of this staff. And Heavenly Father, we come with a special prayer on this morning. Father, our special prayer is we ask you, if it's your will this morning, look down upon our President of these United States of America. Bless his cabinet and all in Congress. As we are in a war, Father, we actually look down upon our defense as they protect us throughout these United States of America. Father, be with them and guide them. Be with their family they left behind. Guide them also, Heavenly Father. And Father, we ask you to look down upon the mayor of this great city of Charleston. Be with him and guide him and his staff. And we actually look down upon the South Carolina. We actually look down upon our governor and all who are leading us in the state of South Carolina. Be with them, oh Heavenly Father. And Heavenly Father, look down upon our police officers, our first responding, and all who are protecting us 24/7. Be with them and guide them, oh Lord. And Heavenly Father, we ask you to be with their family. They're left behind just to protect us. And Father, we thank you for this wonderful morning. In your blessed name we pray. Amen and amen. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next up on our agenda, we have the public comment period. We'll limit those comments to 2 minutes, and just wanted to restate the purpose of this task force is to get all levels of government in the same room and work through our flooding challenges here in Charleston County. So it's an opportunity for city, county, state, the Army Corps of Engineers, Department of Environmental Services, our various stormwater departments, sewer departments, all to get in the same place at the same time. That way there is no passing of the buck of some of these flooding challenges that we are dealing with. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to Philip Sexton to run our public comment period. Yes, I next recognize Representative Wetmore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would add that if the public can, if they're coming up for public comment, please let us know whether or not they've already submitted the initial questionnaire so that we know whether we're looking at something on the list or taking new notes. Thank you.
Very good point. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Looks like we have 2 folks that have asked to speak. The first person is a Miss Rebecca Dunlap.
Good morning. Oh, good morning. I'm not familiar with the questionnaire, but I'd like to take part in.
Just give us your address and we can explain.
Okay. All right, perfect. Hello, my name is Rebecca Dunlap. I am co-owner of the Boot Jack. We are a company that sells, we're a retail store that sells safety and Western apparel and footwear. We have been in the area since 1977. We have a location in West Ashley. It's on the corner of Sam Rittenberg and Belgrade. We moved in, bought that building, renovated, and moved in 2004. To our recollection, we really didn't have any flooding issues until around 2016. And that's when Hurricane Matthew came and our building was completely flooded. It's a retail space up front. We also have some other retail that rents from us, and our whole distribution center is in the back. The whole building flooded, even an inner closet. I thought surely not this inner closet. We couldn't reach the building for a couple of days due to the floodwaters. Then once we could, we didn't have power. So Service Master said they couldn't come in until we had power. Got a hold of a generator, finally got it out, but it mildew, mold, everything. We had to completely move out of the building, rip out walls, rip out carpet. rent a warehouse, store all of our goods. It took us 6 to 8 weeks to get back in. It was $150,000 worth of damages. That does not include loss of business for the 6 weeks that we were out. It was also right before Thanksgiving. So, in a retail business, that was not fun for us. The second main one was when Ian came through in 2022. Same thing, completely flooded throughout the building. We could get in a little sooner, and we did have power that time, so we were able to get disaster care in there right away. So we did not have to leave the building. We were closed about a week or two for that time. Unfortunately, all of our fall goods had just arrived on 3 big trucks the day before. And so pretty much they were all stacked up in our warehouse. And when the bottom boxes got wet, they all toppled over and spilled everything out. So we actually lost more inventory during that hurricane. And our damages were $100,000. And again, did not include loss of business. We've had several other, I call them little small floods, but we were able to take care of them ourselves or just have disaster care come in and not have to claim with our insurance. And part of that is because now we call stormwater has several times a year, especially before big floods, to come clear out the storm drain that's on our property. We think there's going to even be a tropical depression. We sandbag and snake everything. We pray. And we also just, if it's starting to look like it's going to jump the curve, we sandbag everything. Let's see what else. But I do think if it's a Cat 1 or higher, we're going to flood no matter what we're currently doing.
Okay, Rebecca, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And Ms. Dunlap, thank you so much for those comments. When the meeting's over, if you don't mind getting with Philip so we can start getting you into the system and we take a look. And I believe that's the Tiger Swamp Basin over there. Philip and I have walked that a couple of times and incredibly problematic. And so thank you for bringing it so we can get this into our system.
That's great.
Perfect.
Yep, thank you. Okay, the only other person we have signed up today is Melissa Piaski. I hope I said that correct. Sorry, apologies.
Hey, Philip, thank you. It's nice to meet you finally, Philip.
Yes, exactly.
So I have submitted the flood questionnaire in Q1 of 2023. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for hosting this meeting and working diligently to improve the communication and address priorities across these jurisdictions. My name is Melissa Piasecki, and together with my husband, we own and manage 20 rental homes on James Island, including 16 units on Fleming Road that house about 32 residents and their pets. We are City of Charleston residents and have lived on James Island for nearly a decade. Our charming, well-maintained rental homes have proudly attracted young professionals and respectful, hardworking tenants as citizens to the island. Despite being in FEMA Flood Zone X, our Fleming Road properties face repetitive flooding issues. During heavy rains, water overflows from the unpiped roadside ditches, flooding parking lots and yards with thousands of gallons. In particular, our property at 272 Fleming Road suffers persistent interior flooding, sitting at the intersection of a city-maintained ditch on Sir Creek Road, an SCDOT culvert under Fleming Road, and at the mercy of a county-managed downstream ditch outfall network on the west side of the road. Water from both sides of the street overwhelms the undersized city ditch, backing up onto our property and caused an average of 3 interior floods per year since 2022. We've learned that the SODOT culvert is intended to allow water to flow westward to the larger drainage network downstream, but we have video evidence of the opposite happening. It flows eastwards towards our property. After submitting the county survey in Q1 2023, making over 50 follow-up attempts across jurisdictions and the task force, and remediating 11 flood events at 272 Fleming Road and a handful of others at the neighboring properties, I come here today with a plea for prioritization and an immediate call to action. Should we as residential property owners bear the burden of stormwater from the commercial industrial properties located on the west side of Fleming Road? When will the county's downstream drainage network be graded and maintained? What is the status of our requests made through the task force? How many more floods must my residents and I endure before this is addressed expeditiously? We are not expecting perfection, but we do expect improvement. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Okay, those were the two that we had signed up for public comments. Thank you so much on that. All right, moving on in the agenda, we will give a task force update. All right, we have to date received 579 requests for assistance in Charleston County. They range all the way from the municipality of McClellanville all the way down to Edisto Island, from the beaches all the way up to North Charleston, Ladson area. With that being said, kind of a breakdown of where we are with those. We have closed 65%, which is about 374 of those. In progress is 34% or 195. We have 2 that we're waiting to get multi-agency input back on, multi-jurisdictional, and we have 8 to be reviewed that have reached out to us during these winter months. Obviously, you cannot see that, but what we're looking at here is kind of a breakdown of the open requests and the multi-jurisdictional. On the left-hand side, you'll see the county, and then you have local, and then next to it is DOT. You can see that there's multi-jurisdictional, if you could see, they're multi-jurisdictional here. What it breaks down to of the 195, 65 are within the Department of Transportation alone. 26 are within Charleston County, and the rest, which is 104, remain between the local municipalities. Again, there are 18 agencies that manage stormwater in Charleston County alone. So 16 of those agencies make up that 104 that we still have open, that we're working with and trying to get assistance for constituents. Again, this is just a broader view. You can see that we have assistance requested up in McClellanville. I guess you can't really see this on the screen. You have a couple down here on Edisto, and then you do creep up into the North Charleston, Ladson area. The bulk of the requests still are on James Island and West Ashley. All right. With that, I think we will welcome. Yep.
Okay, kind of continue on with the task force update. I want to talk about a couple of things real quick that we're working on in Columbia to help our low country needs. This week, Senator Grooms and I filed S979, and that's going to be a bill related to the penny sales tax. And one of the main purposes of that is to broaden what the penny sales tax can be used for. And part of that is trying it directly to any kind of flooding mitigation project that is connected with a transportation project that those funds can be used for, to include maintenance and clean out. That is a bill that we've been working on with Charleston County, Chairman Boykin and his staff over there to get that drafted. So that got submitted this week. We'll be looking here shortly for some House folks to sponsor. So we have a companion bill moving over there as well. And then the other big thing that we're working on the Senate right now is the DOT modernization bill, transportation and flooding. A lot of overlap there. One of the key pieces to pay attention to is we're looking at congestion mitigation fees. And those are funds that will be collected for new development. Hopefully we'll have a carve out in there for affordable housing or workforce housing projects to exempt those entities. But we constantly hear from our constituents that new people arriving here should help pay to offset growth in the development. So that's what that will do. That fee, we initially put it into the Senate bill, but all new fees have to be originated from the House. So in committee, we took it out so they give the House an opportunity to put that in on their side. But that is another funding resource that will go towards transportation projects, turn lanes, those kind of things, but hopefully some flooding mitigation as well. So we are taking a lot of the concerns, conversations that we have actively right now and put it into legislation up there in Columbia. So with that, all that being said, I'll turn it over to the Mayor of Charleston, Mayor Cogswell. Thank you again so much for hosting our first roadshow for the flooding task force. I've said up there in Columbia a number of times that you guys are ground zero for a lot of the resilience and flooding issues that we're dealing with. And with that being said, I'll turn it over to you for your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, appreciate this task force and what you do. And I think we all know that this is an issue that has no political boundaries. And so I think this collaborations like this are essential if we're going to address this for our residents and for our businesses. So what I wanted to do today is just give you all a brief update on all the many things that we at the city of Charleston are working on as it relates to stormwater and resiliency. Happy to answer any questions that you all might have based on this quick bullet point, because I want to be respectful of time. But probably the biggest initiatives that we have going right now is our partnership with the Army Corps of Engineers, and we have two flooding initiatives with them. One is more specific to the peninsula and its perimeter protection. An initiative that it was authorized by Congress, and what we are looking to do is in essence extend the battery, high battery from the Coast Guard base all the way to the Citadel, and on the eastern side from High Battery all the way up to Newmarket Creek. So creating a marriage of form and function where we'll be able to protect the historic district from surge events and tidal flooding, but also create a linear park. So again, trying to stretch any public dollars as far as they can go. But we're also working with them on the Tidal and Inland Flooding Initiative, which is, oh, and by the way, these initiatives come with 65% of the projects being funded by the federal government. Important point that I didn't mention earlier. Another initiative we have is the Tidal and Inland Flooding, and that is projects really all over the city, particularly on James Island, West Ashley, a few on Johns Island. And that is to develop solutions to issues like what we just heard about on Fleming Road and at the Boot Jack. So two really important ones that we are in constant contact with the Army Corps on. They've been great partners. If I could be honest with you, it's taken some time to maybe shift their process a little bit because it's not a one size fits all. So we've been going through a lot of customization for the Low Country, and they've been great to work with. But it has been, just to be very frank, a process. So what has not been a process is from our federal delegation, we owe them a deep debt of gratitude for helping to fund things like the brick arches rehabilitation, which is, again, mainly on the peninsula. These are underground. They were originally sewer tunnels, but now they are serve as stormwater tunnels. Some of them date back over 120 years. So to reinforce the brick arches, and we've gotten a lot of funding from the federal government to help us do that. Same thing with DuPont and Wapoo drainage improvements that have been ongoing out in West Ashley. Oak Forest Drainage Project, which was built on previous city investments to continue drainage. And these are kind of the basins and projects that help whole drainage basins, kind of hundreds and hundreds of acres. It's ultimately where a lot of the drainage ditches that are behind these businesses fall into. And if, as we all know, if water doesn't have anywhere to go is when it starts backing up. So then finally, on our partnership with the Corps, MUSC pump station uplift, that is a huge pump that'll be help flooding in the medical district. So really appreciate the Corps' partnership. We're going to be partners for a while. But they've been great to work with. Some other nature-based solutions that we're working on at the city of Charleston. We have the Just Ecological Corridor, which is just that, an ecological corridor going across the peninsula. We've gotten some grant money to implement. We've got the Rosemont Flood Action Plan, which is delivering a community-focused plan that works with natural systems to address flooding challenges in that historic community of Rosemont on the neck area. We've got the Dale Morris Ecological Park, named after a previous chief of resiliency who tragically died last year, but was instrumental in helping to illuminate a lot of these issues and build the foundation for a lot of the work we're going on. But that is drainage for Johns Island and nearby Barbary Woods. We've also just wrapped up the Bridgepoint Ecological Park, which is now open and supports the neighborhood water management plan. If you haven't seen it, it's beautiful. It's really an incredible example of what can be done to holistically address flooding in areas that we thought there was little to no hope for. Howell Avenue Ecological Park on James Island. We've got the regional nature-based solutions that are kind of across the entire city. And again, that ties back to the tidal and inland flooding with the Army Corps of Engineers. So I'll wrap up with a few major capital projects. The city of Charleston is working on funding with some help, either from the county, some from the state, some from the federal government, but a big chunk coming out of our balance sheet, which out of all the governments, need I remind everybody, while we have a really nice chamber here, the city of Charleston has the smallest budget. It's half of what the county's is, and I don't know, 1/20th of what the state's is, but we are a major economic engine in terms of generating revenue for all of those entities. So just want to make that little plug there as mayor. But again, we've just wrapped up our low battery completion, which was largely funded by dollars that come here from people that visit through a tax and hospitality tax. We have our Concord Street pump, which is on the eastern side. It's just gone through a major update. And I get to give a shout out to Mr. Matt Fountain, our head of stormwater capital projects. He has worked tirelessly on all of the above and what I'm getting ready to follow. But I just saw him in my line of sight, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say how much we appreciate all that he does for the city and really the region in terms of these projects. Market Street is another drainage improvement project that we were working on, as well as, and one of the things that we're doing again that I think is a smart way to spend public funds is when we work on drainage issues, we're trying to coordinate it to where we're going to bury power lines, where we're going to redo sidewalks, and we're going to create more beautiful public spaces. And nowhere could that be more defined, I would say, than what we're going to be doing on Market Street. So what you see now is going to look totally different from Concord Street all the way to Meeting Street. We've also got a massive pump being put in at long last on King and UG Street that'll help the flooding in that drainage basin up there. Same thing with Spring and Fishburne, the big pump station that you see in between the bridges. That'll be activated within, I'm going to look at Matt Fountain here, within the next 12 months, that thing will be turned on. It's already been making a huge difference just being gravity fed, but when those pumps start humming, it's going to make a huge difference in flooding in that area. Central Park drainage, our construction for the city's work on that will start in 2026. That's complementing work that's already been ongoing. Windermere Drainage Project is another major initiative that will help a lot of the neighborhoods along 17, cleaning out those major ditches. And then we have countless small projects that are talking about, and I'll have to check if the Fleming Road ditch is on there, doing that, just long-term CapEx. And I'll wrap up in saying that, again, back to the money. And again, I'm not hitting up my colleagues in the House and Senate here, but I will kind of. If you want to send more money our way, we'd really appreciate it. But we're looking at things that ways to bring in more revenue too. We're increasing our fees, permit review fees, anything we can do. We've actually increased business license fees on our hotels so that they match Myrtle Beach, for example. We're trying to figure out every source that we can to address this, because this is a massive effort and is going to require not just collaboration and coordination on where the backhoes go, but how the money comes in. So appreciate everybody's patience and letting me go through that, but we are proud of the work we're doing. And I got to give just one more hats off to my entire staff, the Stormwater Department, Parks Department. I mean, just you name it, these guys and gals are doing incredible work. So I want to just say and conclude with how much we in the city of Charleston appreciate their hard work. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Recognize Representative Whitmore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sincerely, thank you for your leadership. Thank you to your staff. I've had now the pleasure of serving for almost 7 years, and I have to have really hard conversations with people about the fact that we have, for my entire lifetime as a South Carolinian, which is all of it, really fancied ourselves a state of limited government, right? And a state of limited means. And that means that the folks you see right here from DOT are the entire staff for 7 counties and the entire, and so this, and I've said this a million times, and I just want to reiterate it. The city has been an excellent example of leadership on this, as has the town of James Island in my district. This idea that even though a road is a DOT road, and even though this is not a value judgment on should, but the most effective path I've seen to getting work done, and this is really, a note for staff and everyone else in the room, is if the local government designs it and permits it and then has it shovel ready for the state government for funding. So as you all know, there are several opportunities for funding up at the State House. One are member requests. That's where each, and this is really more for your staff, I know you know this process, but member requests typically need to be into us. Start looking at those. We need to know about them by January, but we can have the paperwork in early March. That is where individual members can request projects in their districts. Then we also have, of course, the state budget. Those need to be requested and ready by November, right? So we need to make sure, as we're thinking in terms of timeline of asking for state dollars, if it's going to be in the state budget, which DOT doesn't love, but sometimes we do it, that needs to be in, in terms of November. And then year round, we're constantly looking for grant opportunities and everything else, just like y'all. But so to the staff in the room, I would say thank you. Even if it doesn't look like there's immediate capital funding available, please continue to design and permit these projects. We have to have them shovel ready. That's the reality. I wish it weren't that way. I wish we had all the money in the world and all the staff resources in the world for DOT to be able to do more design work. But if we keep waiting on that, we'll keep waiting on the solution. And so from my experience, it's been when the local governments are able to design it, and then the state's able, over time, it's not immediate, it's not, and it's not for sure. I think people don't always realize, like, there isn't just a pot of gas tax funding up there, it's rural road safety, and I think your point is very well taken, that the city of Charleston generates an enormous amount of economic development for this state. And I think it's a frustration for all of us here, continuing to try to claw that back. And again, agreeing with everything you said, and sincerely appreciating your leadership, really more for my friends and other local government entities that are here, to sort of get Spencer's take on what that process looks like. Again, it's not the way it should be, but in terms of being a pragmatist, it's often the way it is.
Yes, sir.
You make really great points there. One suggestion that I might make, request rather, and we can get into specifics, outside this meeting, but probably one of the biggest expenses that we face is time. We've had construction costs escalate pretty dramatically over the past decade. I know y'all are seeing it at the state level. And to get things shovel ready requires state permit and review. And oftentimes, and this is really not meant to knock DES, but I think DES has a lot of dated processes, and maybe there's a way that the legislature can create an expedited path for public projects that get priority. We're doing that with affordable housing. It's not an unknown concept. So really working on that, because if we're going to be innovative and address these issues, we have a lot of laws on the books that were very well intended when they were originally put there and probably needed, that is not a one size fits all. So a strong urging and suggestion would be to really take a scalpel to some of these permitting delays, why they're happening, what their original intent was, and how we can figure out how to expedite them. Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, great point, and specifically with DES, Myra, since her confirmation last year, has been really good to work with, and she has stood up a number of task forces to look at the exactly what you're talking about, since it is now a new department that was broken off from DHEC, which DHEC no longer exists. So yeah, I'll get with you and your staff, and let's look at some of the exact statutes you talk about and start working on legislation very similar to kind of what we did with Charleston County and the penny sales tax bill. But my experience so far is Myra is looking for opportunities like this. So I definitely want to take advantage of that. Perimeter protection. Thank you so much for all your work. I know you've been up to DC a few times, and one of the concerns with I'll say draft one was that potentially getting some Jersey barriers that don't look like Charleston in some areas. I know you've been working very hard to, as you say, form over function, making sure that's also a running pedestrian path. Yeah, no one wants Jersey bears. That is right. So thank you for doing that. The name alone is offensive to our region. You mentioned, I think, that Army Corps is covering roughly 65%. So a bit of a foot stomp to your previous comments. Where's the rest of the expectation, the rest of that funding coming from for that project?
It varies. I mean, if some of it city funded, some of it would be county funded through TST. We've had very good conversations with DOR on, and there is, I mean, this is what I would like to look at the language that you have, S979, because the current language does allow for infrastructure related to flooding is so long as it impacts roads, and everything basically that we do in the low country usually has a flooding component or a drainage component to it. So I think it's, I guess, good to do belts and suspenders, but I don't want there to be any misinterpretation that what we are working on now for whatever reason wouldn't comply, because again, we've had very good and positive meetings with DOR and DES. So I did want to just go on record that Myra has been great. My only point in bringing that up is I think oftentimes their hands are tied. They want to figure out how to expedite things, but they're going to need legislative fixes. So just wanted to make that point.
Thank you for that. And to the next thing that you mentioned, TST, how critical is getting that TST referendum passed for you guys coming up this November?
It's not just us, it's everyone. If it is the major funding source for local roads, and Greenbelt and public transportation, and it's something that's been paid for the past 20 plus years. So it's an extension of something that's been out there for a while. And while nobody likes a tax, this is something that, because of the somewhat unique nature of Charleston County in particular, where about 50% of the revenue that comes in from it is paid for by people that don't live in Charleston County. So the only other alternative for raising revenue is property taxes, which would be directly on residents and businesses of Charleston County. So it's the way to go. Helping spread that word, I think, is really important, because as I tell people repeatedly, Senator, I think you know this, as do the reps here, that if we don't have this, we're going from a deep hole of being way behind on our capital improvement projects, roads, et cetera, to being one that we will not be able to get out of. We are growing at that rate. And so it is definitely something that we need to address. A lot of people get frustrated and confused by the fact that these are all state roads, generally speaking, but the state doesn't have the revenue to do it. I do applaud you all for this effort to revitalize DOT. I would urge you to make sure that stays on track because of how critical it is, especially in the low country, because as y'all are aware, our district is the lowest funded of all the DOT districts, but we have the highest population and are growing the fastest and have been for over a decade. And I'll be willing to bet that we generate by far the most revenue to the state, and yet we get the lowest amount of money. So again, things like that need to be balanced out, and I get it's a challenge, but the more data you all have, the more I think the economic argument becomes pretty abundantly clear.
Excellent. And to the modernization effort, we got that on the Senate floor this week, and Senator Grooms was very clear this would probably be the most impactful bill that we work on, and I'm in full support of what he said this year, because just like flooding, people, bipartisan, across the board, we need more from DOT and how we build roads more efficiently and quicker and catch up. And to your, I'll send you a copy of 979. It is expanding, clarifying what the maintenance aspect of it. Maintenance O&M has been an issue in the past, and then a lot of what DOR has said is allowed that isn't necessarily in a statute will be put in there as well. So it's codifying what with previous rulings by DOR, what they can use it for. So with that said, any other questions, Representative Hartman? Thank you so much. Keep us posted on needs from us, and we're very we very much enjoy our working relationship, and this is how we get better government. City, county, state all get in the same room, talking and working together.
Appreciate you all letting me yap on about this, but as we all know, it's really important. I unfortunately got to duck out to another meeting, but thanks again for everything that y'all are doing, and we're here to help as well. Thank you.
One thing from
Yeah, one thing I just, for the group, it's kind of doubling down what you said. I went back and looked at our last conversation in the fall where I asked all the agencies to share with us projects that were shovel ready or close to shovel ready. So there was 45 identified projects across the 18 agencies just in Charleston County. Of those 45, they totaled about 170 million. Only 7% of those were funded at that time. I doubt that needle has moved very much in this room since then, but that goes to what you just said, that this is a continued problem for the constituents and residents of Charleston County, is where we're going to find the funding for these important flood projects. So.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Excellent. All right, we'll move on to our regulatory permit updates with Philip Sexton.
Yes. All right. First up, I think I saw, is it Blair? Are you going to get up and speak for DES? Okay.
No pressure.
Yeah, great segue.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, good morning. My name is Blair Williams. I'm the director of the Critical Area Permitting Division for South Carolina Department of Environmental Services, Bureau of Coastal Management. Since our last meeting, we have a general permit, the stormwater conveyance general permits specific for local governments to conduct activities to maintain and clear out ditches, essentially, that are tidal ditches. We've received 11 requests since our last update. There were 2 pending under review. Of those 13, 8 have been completed. 5 are still in process right now, and about 4 of those 5 have recently been submitted. I heard some conversations as it relates to shovel-ready projects. And part of the process, what we've also implemented now is pre-application meetings. We've always made that available, but we've actually incorporated that into our online permitting database that's external and internal facing. So anyone can reach out and request a pre-application meeting. We highly encourage that for any kind of projects that may be shovel ready or that they may be identified funding for those shovel ready projects. What that does, that truly helps the permitting process and turning around those permits even faster, even quicker. So there's a little bit of an expedited type improvement process there. As well as we continue, I think Chris Stout, our chief, reported on Target 90 last meeting. We're continuing to implement the Target 90 process, and it's been working very well for us. Any questions?
Representative Wetmore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you so much for being here. Not today, but for the next meeting, which I think we're looking at June 12th. One of the things after Chris spoke last time was asking about coastal zone consistency permitting. I know that's not your department, but we had set a goal for them to have the coastal zone permits at 6 months. Whether or not we are able to get sort of legislative priority for public projects, would it be possible to come back to us at the June meeting and let us know the average time frame on your critical area? And then I'll relay that same question for the average time frame on public projects as to coastal zone and critical area permitting. Is that?
Yes, ma'am. So I actually sent a report that for the
Okay, good.
curricular activities, to Philip this morning. I've been submitting those before every one of these meetings.
Perfect. Okay.
It details staff's time that the department's had it, the time that we received, the time we issued it, and it's been very timely on those. But for the coastal zone consistency, I can get with Chris and we can work on making sure we can report out on that in the next meeting.
Thank you, because we had budgeted for them to add 8 staff members to their coastal zone consistency permitting department, exactly for this issue that we're talking about here today. And they had also gone through the Sigma 6 process, the federal sort of efficiency process. And so I was hoping to get new updates from them, and I will follow up with them as well. But if you wouldn't mind helping me relay that message, and ideally at the June 12th meeting, I'd love to find out if that's made a difference in terms of our permitting windows especially for public projects.
Will do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Okay, next up, we had the Army Corps. I did unfortunately receive a regretful text that they are ill and they're not gonna make it in today. We were really hoping to get them to this meeting because they haven't been able to make it. But the good news is that the channel of communication has opened back up, at least from us from a task force standpoint. So we're at least communicating with them again. So we hope to have an update that I can share with the members of the committee and then have them at the June meeting to provide some updates. Again, to the local governments that are present, if we can ever do anything to help in that front, please reach out to us and let us know so we can try to advocate for your behalf. So.
All right, we'll move on to the multi-jurisdictional flooding locations.
All right, so a couple new places here, but gonna hit some areas that have been in this rotation for a while now. So in the Ashley Forest community in West Ashley, we only have the one request officially on Collingwood that is mainly surface draining, but still given the right rain event, as you can see here, they do get significant surface flooding on the street, overtopping the street and flooding the yards out. The big question for this one, and the reason I left it in, is do we have an update on any of the drainage improvements underneath 17 to try to get that water out of this community? I didn't know if that moved anywhere since last fall.
A lot of the water that's goes south through 17 down through. Years ago, the city did go to the outfalls, and it was very for BS to get done. Managed work through that system. As you mentioned, we've done quite a bit of managed work and kind of checking on issues the system put in, but really that constriction is still very large in the storms. Like, I think we're at the city got a small project funded to look at stormwater modeling to figure out what level of improvement would be needed in that system to see if it could get rolled somehow into the county's transportation project, looking at reworking the intersections in this area. I know that's been a question of budgeting, but at least trying to figure out what is the cost. And that's an ongoing effort to update that modeling to figure out is the city to fund modeling so that the county could consider if they actually just want to make that trade improvements or back up. Yes, but that's not a bill.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good. At least it's progressing. As y'all move along, whatever we can do to help, please let us know. We haven't had a lot of new constituents in this area reach out to us, but we know that they do check in every so often and say, hey, do you have an update for us? Have you heard anything? And we say, no, not of yet, but we know it's in planning stages. So. Sure. Yes.
Trying to figure out who's putting more behind that the funded get that ask.
Okay.
But then however, part of that was for all direct funding is getting income.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, moving on to the Bayfront community. We've had multiple requests to the task force for assistance regarding deferred maintenance associated with flooding that has ongoing in this community. Damage to property structures has been reported, overtopping of roads in this location on Kemper, I believe. The road does become overtopped completely during the right storm event. And then, this is kind of from a ring camera of that same location during the right storm. You can just see how much standing water builds up in this community. And then this is kind of the outfall structure. Regarding updates on this community, there is deferred maintenance that needs to be done by DOT in this area. So I'd love to get an update first on, has any of that been able to be achieved since last October? I don't think it had been at that time.
The red arrow points to a general area at the intersection of Kemper. The outfall starts there. Historically, if we don't ditch them, there's Septima grass in those ditches. This is a very low area. This is a tidal flooding. Those ditches are clear. It's the ditches that are away from that one block area that are in bad shape, but they don't really affect the flooding. So we do have on the top side of the Bayfront community a local issue. It's kind of grown over the years due to some encroachment on the shoulder that we need to address.
Okay, all right. And then I do appreciate Charleston County getting back to us on the outfall itself, or I guess maybe the start of the outfall if it comes out of the DOT right away. We appreciate y'all taking a look at that, confirming that the system is open as intended, that maintenance is needed. But I will say the continued conversation is maybe once you get into the critical area of getting the water more efficiently out. And I believe that may fall back into a city jurisdiction at that point, potentially. I'm not quite sure on that. But is there any conversation on, is that on the horizon at all to be reviewed or looked at to try to get the water as efficiently as you can out during a storm event?
I believe that
It's a town, okay.
So it would be a town, or a town permitting effort. We're having to assist the town. We've got a good SOP that we're going through. We filed the drone. The permits are there. We're pretty efficient with getting permits. We help the town out, but if there's fiscal easement needs to be obtained, that's the town, since it's in the town's jurisdiction.
Gotcha. Well, I guess what I would just ask is that we've got a constituent that's right there at the outfall that is getting impacted pretty severely. We've met with them in our own individual levels, I believe.
A lot of that is just about what
They're fiddler crabs in the ditch. Yeah, absolutely.
You're looking at tidal flooding and no outfall cleaning, no piping of anything is going to, it's a very, very low area. And unless you build some type of physical barrier, there's no way to actually prevent that tidal flooding.
Agreed. Definitely. I guess what I would like to do is maybe have a follow-up conversation with y'all in the town, with the town leading, to say, is there any kind of reduction of flow in that outfall system at all? So that way, when the tide goes down, that the water can go out as efficiently as possible to reduce the flooding. So.
Yeah, I mean, the drainage way itself, where our maintenance is, there is riprap, concrete, I think residents through it, help prevent the erosion, but the drainage way itself is free flowing. Now, once you get past our maintenance limits, the outfall is maintained by the city. I do remember one of your initial emails, can get permitted and typed in around that.
Yeah, that was
That's long term, but
yeah.
We went out there, everything's free flowing.
Yeah, that was a request from the constituent because of the property loss due to the erosion qualities, that they're losing part of their property due to those tidal flooding cycles. We explained to them from a capacity standpoint that by being open, it actually is more efficient than piping it. But of course, they're losing their yard, understandably, so there's a concern there. But all right, well, we will circle back with the county and the town after this conversation to see if we can keep moving this one forward. All right, the next community is the Cedar Springs community. I think since we last met, the DOT had just completed a pretty heavy lift in this community. My understanding was that y'all were out there for almost a month, I think, off and on cleaning out. I don't know if it's been completed in its entirety, but I think maybe there was a couple sections left to do, but I didn't know if you had an update on that.
Oh, yes. So we have started work out there. And I think it's like a month and a half worth of work, in terms of drainage or, ditching and, shoulder work. I think we have about 2 weeks, 3 weeks left. But we have done some damage out there. And we will be able to clean it up relatively soon. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate that. I know the constituents have expressed their thanks in what y'all have done to date. So this will close that chapter for sure. And then with Charleston County, it's always a conversation the constituents bring up. I think if my understanding is that y'all have an easement on the ditches that go from the DOT right away to the rear property lines, but the rear ditch is not in an easement at this time. Is that correct?
I believe it's not, yes.
Sure.
We visited those outfalls back in January. So it's as much maintenance as can be. I think one of the issues that we found back during one of the storms a couple years ago is there's some undersized infrastructure under the roads. I'll take a quick side quest here, but we're wrapping up our pilot area for our watershed master plan, and which is to develop a 2D model for all the. We started in Southern Johns Island because it was an entirely unincorporated area. Berryville, Walter, the Cedar Springs areas, we're moving to next, so that we can start identifying projects, start bringing them into a capital improvement plan, and start putting numbers to them, so we can start with the design permitting process and see what we really need to do. We're starting with the outfall and working our way up, but some of the problems that Mr. Brown seeing on NHTSA is those are large rain events that are being constricted by undersized infrastructure, not necessarily maintenance.
Yeah, so as y'all identify that, please let us know, because that's another funding mechanism that we're going to have to try to find. But if there's a capacity issue that we can fund a project or get a project funded to increase it from a thoroughfare throughput output, we want to hear that so we can try to prioritize that. Absolutely. Okay, thank you. And this is another example of some of the surface flooding that these constituents experience when they do have those heavy rain events. All right, Central Park, all sorts of stuff here. One of the original applicants, very large watershed. Lots of work has been completed and a lot of work is to be completed in this area. Fleming Road is part of this area. So I think what we'll start for the conversation's sake is from the county's perspective, if y'all can give an update on the Central Park project, and then the next one being Hollins,
Yeah.
and then go from there.
Yes, we just had the ribbon cutting for Central Park Road. It's increasing the culverts under Central Park to 48, putting tide gates, needed tide gates to restrict the tide flow. That was an extreme permitting process, and Army Corps was our biggest hurdle there. We set a precedent with some of these community tide gates, so we had to fight through that. It was a great project. I will say that it was under budget and ahead of schedule, so it's a wonderful thing. Should have been done by April, and we're done now, so we're good. Next project upstream is Hollins Road project, which will be taking drainage from the Fleming Road. There's a little tiny ditch, and it's just got all kinds of. You got 30-inch that goes down to a 15-inch construction. It's not ideal. We're installing 8x2 box culverts in the middle of Hollins Road. That should start in the next few weeks. We've already started working on the outfall, the canal that we maintain. So that will be a huge project to to get that water from the restriction of that Fleming Road ditch that goes through people's front yards, the sidewalk out to their mailbox. It's an area where they have a lot of flooding, so we're gonna bring that over to that big ditch. Next part of the stream is the Howell Park, which we've already talked about. Ideal projects and restrict some development and make a stormwater feature and a passive park there. The next thing upstream is what we still need. It was the first time still have not met in a flooding capacity. He's talking about drainage on how it's stuff, and there's a ditch back there that has to be improved, but there's minimal easement at best. So that needs to be, that's our next step upstream. Really just need the time to address that.
So I think the committee's understanding, when you get to that upstream section, so those rear ditches, and then as it crosses, goes under Howe back over to Fleming, which is some of the flooding that we heard earlier. That is the conveyance for that main part of that system, is to go through that area. And can you elaborate on what, if any, easements that the county has and maintenance that can be done in that area?
Maintenance can be done in what area?
And those ditches that cross between the property lines, between the rear ditch, Stephen Howe, over to Fleming, that go under, yeah.
So, do this from memory. So from the ditch between Howe and Stephen, there's no easement from that ditch over to Howe. There's half an easement, so the ditch on the property line. One side of the ditch has an easement, the other side does not. And then there is full easement from Fleming to that property line.
I think that sounds correct.
And even if we were to get those easements, there's trees in the way. There's getting a piece of machinery in there is going to be a difficult. We're gonna have to take out a lot of trees in order to put a piece of machinery that's big enough to remove. Even a mincing buck is going to have to get out some tree. You guys rear lot buffer, or those buffer yards. It's a lot of we had a meeting at the poorhouse in February of 2021. I physically walked the street, knocked on every door, and we've heard absolutely where do I sign from, I think, 2 folks. We had a get off my property, I don't flood, I don't care. So that's the gamut that we're running. And that's what we've got. That's the challenge that in acquiring that in that area.
So would it be fair to say that until some of those easements got secured and the ability to go in and do the maintenance, the flooding is probably not going to get significantly better? Is that a fair statement?
I would actually say it's some of them, maintenance is not enough. We really need to construct something.
Okay.
It needs to be, the capacity needs to be more than even like this.
All right, well, let's continue this conversation. I appreciate everything that y'all have done to date on that. But we're still, hearing from those constituents as of today of the impacts that they have to their properties. So.
I'll jump to and I know I've mentioned this at the previous meeting, the hesitation we run into with people sometimes with easements. And what I'll make myself available, Representative, I know, Wetmore, this is part of her district, as well. And we can, I think it's, City Council, this is Appel.
Yes.
We can coordinate and get all 3 together and do a community meeting or walk down the road door to door and kind of address some of these concerns that an easement is not going to allow the city to come in and, build a new park in their backyard or anything like that. One of the things I've heard from constituents too is, they're worried about timing and all that kind of stuff. We can work that out, whether it be an easement or a license agreement, but consider us available if you guys want to work together and coordinate a door-to-door campaign or what to help get that signed.
Yeah, and just for the room, this is where the ditch crosses Howe in particular. And as you can see, public is out in kayaks during this certain rain event because of the flooding on Howe. If we progress forward, this is the flooding on Fleming that was mentioned earlier. When the road becomes overtopped, it floods these rental properties out. And again, this all goes through the same conveyance system out to the water body.
That eventually goes out. And every day they small rain actually would go east of the Cross Creek.
Yes, Cross Creek. That's right. Yes.
Past is reached in that neighborhood, then it starts to spill over into the house stuff, and so it's right on the property or right on the borderline. It depends on the storm which way the water goes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Matt and Benji from the city. We heard a little bit from the mayor, but maybe you want to expand on some of the stuff that y'all are doing this watershed.
Originally, green belt funding related to stormwater storage, passive park space, and detention, interconnection. How will south of the west out any way that can access up to the end of town sites. The city worked a full rehabilitation of roadside pipe drainage systems in Cross Creek to try to expect that was out. There's also a funded evaluation of culverts under those streets, determining culverts for additional restrictions. The city actually just finished a small project to stabilize the eventual outfall from all of that up. The DOT culverts under Maybank, Walking Creek area, so that actually just finished up. So a lot of all that. City's landscape manual, of course, requires reductions in flooding from new developments that are being built, so that as those townhomes and other things go in Creek neighborhood, that's further reducing how much water is being generated in that basin. So that 5,000, that's going to repair by 1,000 days. Kind of turn that narrative over time. We have a St. Arson Park project. Area of St. Park to the east of the county's project went. That project is just going to for its final unforest permitting decade. Set up the construction of those permits. That will improve the barrier shape of pipes under Central Park Road, under Raleigh Roads, which would be DOT roads, under Giving Apartments, which is a private driveway, and stabilize the canal that is sort of a joint city county. It's been much more grand house, so that part of the neighborhood. Then, Scott mentioned that should tie in the eastern side of the neighborhood, western side of the neighborhood. Yeah. So there's probably $20 million work going on in that basin. But there's but
yeah, no. That's great to hear. I know that y'all been at this for 6-8+ years now, studying and monitoring and trying to identify these projects. So I know the constituents definitely appreciate it. So that's great to hear. And again, like I hear the permitting tone or theme again. Again, if there's anything that we can do, let us know. Even if it's picking up a phone and making a phone call just to check in to highlight the permit in question if it's lagging or whatever it may be. So. From the DOT standpoint, there's obviously a lot of DOT right away in this area. Regarding Fleming in particular, because we heard earlier the issues there, where do y'all stand with reaching out to that private property owner regarding the pump that they have and the pumping mechanism that pumps the water from their private property into the DOT right away during a heavy rain event? At one point, we had discussed, we made y'all aware of it. I think y'all try to make an initial approach. You may have even talked to them. They may have moved the discharge location, but is that still happening? Do you have any concerns there? I'd love to hear you talk about a little bit more of that if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'm not aware that it's still active. Is it still active? You see,
That's my understanding, yes.
It is still active. Okay. Then we can go back and address it.
Yeah, the concern there is that one, were y'all aware of it? Did y'all approve the discharge? And then secondly, it's already a strain system.
Right.
And so, that's an additional volume that's getting hit to the strain system during these heavy rain events. So if y'all could take a look at that, we would appreciate that and give us an update once you do. So
Will do.
Okay. All right. Let's see. All right, moving on. DuPont Wapoo watershed. We heard a little bit about this. The other second person that spoke today is in this watershed. I know that the city and county have been looking at this for quite some time. The mayor briefly hit on it, but I'd love to get any kind of updates on where this stands as far as feasibility, route. Is this project solidifying anymore? Is it still very much on the planning phase?
I normally don't instinctively use the mic, but I know we have multiple areas, and some of the recording can be helpful with the mic. So from a capital project perspective, as you mentioned, there's been a collaborative county city design effort in this basin. This is a 1,600 acre drainage basin, very large basin, all flows through basically an old canal system that is now about the size of one of these desks. Eventually does expand out as it comes south of Citadel Mall, goes under a series of DOT roadways, under I-526, down through Costco, turns, comes down under US 17 and goes out by the schools in that area. Very, very long drainage pathway for a very flat set of topography, which is why historically it was known as Tiger Swamp, prior to all the fill and the construction of the infrastructure in the area in Citadel Mall. Out of the original review work that we've done, the city has progressed project area 1 for us, which is basically the initial improvements along Orleans Road and the crossings of Orleans Road to try to drain the neighborhoods around kind of Hazelwood, Taborwood down into that system more efficiently. That project is in final permitting right now. We've just about finished up. I think DOT asked us to take over one more piece of infrastructure we were installing for maintenance versus the last set of infrastructure we agreed to take over for maintenance. And then we are waiting on a few punch list items on our city permits. So we'll be installing a partial sidewalk down part of Orleans Road. We'll be doing upsized pipes and some canal improvements in that area. That is actually state appropriation funded, almost in its entirety for construction. The original design work was all city and county funded. Then we have, as the mayor mentioned, so that's the first phase project that's likely to go to construction in the next few months, presuming we get those permits finalized. The work on the larger basin, as the mayor mentioned, we have a collaborative project effort with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on a cost split where they're providing some funding to look at the design to basically upsize what infrastructure needs to be upsized from US 17, which we know is drastically undersized at the US 17 corridor. Does the 526 infrastructure need to get upgraded, which is obviously, if it does, an incredibly expensive component of the project. And then as you go up through Orleans, Samrit, all the different corridors through there, where are those improvements and what level of canal improvements need to be made and what property acquisition, because most of that system does not have easement on it. So that is currently in the Army Corps of Engineers process for solicitations for an AE firm to go forward. But that's actively ongoing, and it is very large scale work, which is why we've broken into these phases, trying to quick start construction where we can.
Sure.
And then the city has worked through the last couple of hurricane seasons to hire contractors to go out and clean all of the culverts under all of the DOT roadways in advance of those hurricanes to help get that water out, because those culverts are obviously points of constriction and problems. So that's been something we have put in where we budget every year with our finance department. They authorize emergency funds to go out and clean those culverts in advance of major name storms, which I think has had some real help for getting that area to drain out more efficiently.
Yeah, no, this is one of, if not the largest watersheds in the municipal boundary. So it is a very complex lot, very, very flat. Like you said, I don't know that there's 2 feet of fall across.
It's about 2 total.
Yeah, I mean,
1 foot of the head loss is just under the 17 corridor. It's a full foot of head loss trying to go under 17 there with pipe.
Yeah, no, it's a huge challenge. So that's great that y'all are still working on it. Again, please let us know what we can do to help, because we definitely hear from constituents again today and most recently, like the Belgrade area, Dulce, that whole area. They're continuing to reach out, asking for help of what can be done to try to lower those water levels. We educate them. Again, it's very flat. This is why it was a swamp before. But I think the realistic goal was to try to reduce the level of flooding. Not that it's going to flood, but the level of flooding when you get hit with a certain storm event.
And I should probably flag in, city just finished the Forest Acres Drainage Improvement Project, which is basically, if you look at the dividing line, the continental divide as it was of West Ashley, everything that flows to the east, the project that the city just completed over by the St. Andrews Parks and Playgrounds coming up to Highway 61 Playground Road. So that basically makes sure as much water as possible is coming away from the DuPont Wapu Basin and into that improved Forest Acres Basin. That's the West Ashley Bikeway system as well. So again, trying to leverage all of our projects to do everything that we can to reduce flooding in the areas where we still see the most flooding.
Okay. Has there been any more conversations, speaking of Dulce, and trying to reestablish an outfall for that street? I know we met out there as a group. We tried to talk to some of those property owners about reestablishing or moving. Does that still not have a proper outfall, or is that still not really gone anywhere?
It does not have a proper outfall.
Okay. All right. Yep. So no major updates there.
Nothing that,
Okay.
not from lack of trying.
Sure. And is the Greenway, is that off the table now or still on the table or?
So we currently have a consultant who is. We currently have a consultant who is doing some alternatives analysis. We're looking at putting a large culvert down the Greenway. There's not a lot of real estate there because it's full of water and wastewater, which is it's owned by Charleston Water System.
Right.
We asked them to go back, and something we've never done before, but we've asked them to go back and evaluate a pump station in that area. And not ideal, but there's a pond right on Piper. Is that Piper?
Sounds right.
Piper Cessna area, that it's already a low point. We could use that as some form of wet well for a pump system. But it would be a new service line offered by Charleston County. Not something that we've done before, but we are evaluating that because the gravity solution was a solution, but it's not as good of a solution as we wanted.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, Phil, I should flag talking about that southern portion of the basin, which it's easy to forget. So the Citadel Mall Basin actually extends down into the Air Harbor neighborhoods and south of 17. As the CWS deep tunnel system is progressing on the Greenway, the West Ashley Sewer Tunnel extension, they worked in their regulatory process to also try to improve how much water they're able to shift down the Greenway and away from a lot of the flooded neighborhoods in that location. So again, taking that into the tidal marsh in that location, similar to what the county is looking at expanding upon, but there have been steady improvements from all the different agencies working in the area, trying to collaborate on stormwater.
I do recall that now that you mentioned that. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Thank you. All right. We are going to try to wrap this up at 11:30. So I'm going to move a little bit quicker through some of those other communities. Let's see. All right. The next one is Getty's Hall. There was really only a couple around this area other than Capri Isles back in 2018. The biggest thing here is that there's a large conveyance that goes through here that does go piped once you get on the other side of Wapoo. We met years ago on this. I don't know that anything's really happened there, but at some point, something's going to probably have to happen to improve the outflow of water for this community. So I'm assuming nothing's really moved much on this one. Is that a fair statement?
And that one is on our list of projects considering for funding. It's
Yep.
basically, as you mentioned, the outfall system for Wapoo doesn't function anymore.
Yep.
Never really had a very functional system, it looks like, from the origin. So trying to figure out how to build a functional system for Wapoo is something that I think DOT, the county, and the city are all trying to collaborate to find funding for.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. All right. Moving on. So Lighthouse Point community, what came to us, we had some older ones back in 2020 over here on the western side. But then we had some newer ones on Seaward. I believe this was some DOT right away that needed some just maintenance, deferred maintenance on it. DOT, do y'all know that if this has been completed yet or not?
DOT got a project. We did Seaward, Mariner, and what was the last one? Tiller, I think Tiller. We went through, it was deferred maintenance. We were able to go there, take out the vegetation and get the ditches reestablished. There is an outfall through there that's it looks like a tidal creek. It's got a lot of debris in it. The residents told us they used to be able to boat up in it. Now they can't. They can't even run a canoe. So there's going to be some other issues in the future that's going to cause. But no, we just need to continue the project and finish out the rest of it. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Moving on. So Moreland, we kind of heard this earlier about trying to get the water out. And so I think we've established this. But again, kind of the same thing, parish, some surface flooding during the right rain events, trying to get the water out. And this, in particular, this location is tidally influenced during the right tide. All right, Old Windermere, I think this could dedicate some time from the city on getting an update on where y'all stand with that work.
Yeah, the old Windermere project is, that's one that we did get some state appropriation funding for as well. That one was bid out for construction last month, is due to council for construction award this month. It's the city primarily working with CWS to build major drainage, which for those aren't familiar, CWS owns the Greenway itself as one of their major utility corridors in the city. The city leases the top of it at a very low cost, I think $1 a year, to do a linear park. But when we want to do infrastructure improvements, that's their very valuable infrastructure that they purchased. They are allowing us to come back and add drainage infrastructure to try to provide new outfalls and improvements for the streets through this neighborhood. We've worked with CCSD, the school district, who's allowing us to use the backside of their school to install other infrastructure improvements to be able to get the water to an outfall. So another good example where the different agencies really need to collaborate in order to make projects like this possible. And again, as I mentioned, with some funding from the state appropriations as well as city, bringing quite a bit of funding into the table with our drainage fund. That project, again, should go to council for approval this month. CWS is finalizing their approvals this month for their utility costs, and then construction roughly 18 months.
Okay, no,
So it's a little over $10 million of construction work for scale here.
yeah, it's a fairly decent sized project, and those constituents are very engaged, and they like the updates. So they appreciate that. We'll pass that along. If we hear any questions, we'll let you know.
Yeah, and I think we've talked in the past, I don't want to belabor it today, of all the different smaller scale work we've done in the meantime to get to this larger project. But a lot of short-term rehab work and improvement work in addition to the eventual large scale capital that's going in.
Yeah, the rehab, the outfall restoration, I mean, all that's made a huge impact to this community.
That's right.
And so I think this will be a good one to finish up on. All right, Red Top, not much here really. I know the county was trying to work with this community a little bit on trying to increase the conveyance or establish conveyance. I haven't really heard much there, but I think that's probably where it stands at this point.
Yeah. Our consultant just finished up their alternatives analysis, and we just finished up finalized a scope with them to move forward with the design permitting, and then it will be property acquisition.
Okay.
Easement acquisition.
All right, very good. Thank you. All right, Riverland Terrace. So the majority of this infrastructure, as you can see here, is within DOT ownership. I had a chance to meet with them this past fall, winter, and we walked through and we looked at everything. I think we kind of came up with a game plan. Haven't heard an update since then, so would love to know kind of where we stand with that work and kind of next steps.
Could you get back to the roads list again?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, so I know Riverland, Stono, and St. James, we've started some area work there. The other ones like Wapu, Hall, Parkway, and Coker, I think we're sticking with the ones on the bottom first, and then we'll move to the other ones eventually. We do have a game plan going forward. And I think we're going to start that either next week or the following week. And I don't think it, basically, if you start on Riverland, we get a lot of issues on Riverland a lot. And then once we work off of Riverland into the other adjacent areas, we'll be able to essentially chase the problem. But in terms of when we're starting work and stuff, we haven't really been working on it like recently. It's more like game planning, but we do have a schedule for it, and it should be relatively soon.
Yeah, so I will tell you, we have several constituents here that reach out to us weekly.
Yes.
And they're frustrated, and they know that we have a wet spring and summer coming up. So anything that y'all can do, I know y'all.
That's
very full plate.
We're prioritizing it like,
Okay.
next week or two. So.
All right. No, that would be great. And then aside from that, there is a little bit of city on this on Plymouth. Yeah. Do y'all have an update on that maintenance at all?
Yeah, Plymouth, Buckley Hall Road, Parkway, and City, so we have gone out clean those spots.
And they're going back and regrading the section of ditch, wants to look at.
Okay. Yeah, that'll help get that. I think it was just, again, deferred maintenance, open up that conveyance system, we should get the water out again. Okay, yeah, if y'all can talk even today, please, so that way we can give some information back to the constituent, because that, I can imagine so. But yeah, that individual is reaching out to us, like I said, weekly, because of the impacts to their property, so. Okay. All right.
Philip,
Yes.
before we move on, you know, Ruben Terrace is, you know, an older community, and the infrastructure is set up through DOT is very, very limited. So, I mean, I know it's not on the radar, seems like on a larger scale for projects, but to me, it needs to be there. So I'm not coming with a huge offer. I'm just coming with a request. So if there's been any conversation with it, you know, I'd like to get involved and hopefully push it along. So.
Yeah, if y'all identify capacity constraints with the existing buried infrastructure, let's talk about that and discuss what are the next steps. I know we have that one that you're going to take some shots on to see if we can flip it potentially to help improve some of the loading that goes through the center of the community. But let's continue the conversation. Please.
Yeah, but that outfall is, you know, it's not owned. It's been turned over to private owners. So,
right.
You know, we don't have a lot and it's right there on the Wapu Cut. So, I mean, it's going to be expensive to get in there and take ownership of it as an easement. So
No, I understand. Yep.
So.
Thank you. Do we have anyone from Sullivan's here today? I know that they are. Here. Oh, very good. Thank you, sir. Do you have, I know that y'all have a lot going on out there, but didn't know if you had a quick update for us on where those projects stand.
Quite a lot going. The two large stormwater projects at stations 28 and 31 under the well underway. We're going to be soliciting bids starting a week or so from now for the Osceola project. We should be able to receive bids for a month or so locally. That'll be stormwater, moving the water out, keeping the tide out, reopening the outfall. And I'm also happy to announce that through Senator Graham's good offices, we were able to obtain a $3 million appropriation for the station 22.5 basin. 22.5 is the end of the cost. So looking forward to getting that.
That's great. I know those constituents would very much appreciate that. So thank you so much. That's good to hear. And if we can do anything to help, please keep us in the loop. Yeah, thank you so much. All right. All right. So the one that has been out there for a while now is this location on Oak Street in McClellanville. We've been working with the town. I know the DOT's had conversations. The biggest thing here, I know at one point the DOT was mobilized to come in and maybe do some trenchless repair. But you know, we hadn't heard anything in a while. Can y'all give us a quick update on that one? Is there an update?
Yeah, we had to hold progress on that because we found out the drainage was off the right of way. And so we would have to get either an agreement with the homeowner that we can work in that area or possibly relocate the drainage on our right of way. But if we had to do that, I believe there's sidewalk and there's like a large tree there. And then there's old drainage structures. So that would require us to redo the drainage structures, repipe everything on our right of way. And then I think there's like a creek or something right there next to another drainage box where it's piped in. We would have to essentially like get permission to go out there because we don't have the right of way out.
Well, appreciate the update. And that I think I've seen that from a plat standpoint. The biggest thing I would say is let's continue the conversation because that constituent they have sinkholes forming in their yard. It's a safety hazard for the kids that come by. Like these are pictures of how big of a void is above the infrastructure that's there now. And that's only continuing to grow. They say that they're trying to, you know, stabilize as much as they can as a homeowner. But that conveyance system does cut through their property that serves upstream of it. So let's continue working with Michelle and the others of the town to see if we can try to come up with some solutions there is all I ask. So
yeah, it is off a right of way. So we were trying to work with them. And so you know, things that are on our right of way do take priority. So and we hope to get to it, but it had not happened. So.
Okay. All right. All right, so we're here at the very end of the time. This is more for informational sake, I think, at this point. I'll reach back out to you. We had a new constituent reach out regarding Boone Hall Drive. We had talked about this location before. I know this serves as a uniquely challenged location because of the elevation of the property in relation to the roadway, as well as the long drainage path to get the water out. I'll be reaching out to the city after today to kind of talk about, informationally wise, what we can do here to try to do some help.
We just did a project.
Okay.
We just we actually consider that a false buyout as well. We're actually gonna start landscaping and try to rewild that area.
That's great. Okay, we'll circle back after today to talk about that one. Another one that's come up is Folly and Fort Johnson within the town. This intersection has seen some flooding in various forms. Again, we're running out of time today, but let's continue the conversation about, getting the water. Where does water go? Is any impacts from a conveyance standpoint as we move forward with that? And then Signal Point Road, I think, is the last one I have. So we had multiple folks in the last quarter reach out to us because they either go to Signal Point Road for pleasure or for business or whatever. And some of them have had to abandon their cars in the past due to flooding events. So again, we're out of time today, but I'll circle with y'all to get some answers for them on what are the next steps and what is being done to try to improve this location in particular. And so with that, that's all I have.
Real quick before we adjourn here, one of the other big things in the conversation in Riverland Terrace reminded me is with the transportation modernization bill we're working on. A big goal of that is to shrink DOT's portfolio of roads. We're really trying to get them out of the holding secondary roads. And the way it's structured now, subject to change, because we're still working on passing this bill, is there has to be a mutual consent between DOT and the local municipality or county. So we're not going to put local municipalities in a situation where they're just a bunch of new roads are dumped onto their budget type thing, that there will have to be some kind of agreement to work out. But I think you'll probably see, it's too early to speak specific to which roads, but roads like over Riverland Terrace, I think will be a prime example where DOT will be looking to hand over ownership sometime in the future. So with all that being said, our next meeting we'll be looking at initially June 12th, subject to change, and we'll be working with Mayor Lyon to coordinate hosting that in the town of James Island. So with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Excellent. And thank everybody again for being here today. This is government at all different levels, getting in the same room and working through problems. It is tedious at times, but that's how we get results. So thank you all for coming. Thank you, constituents, for being here. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. Keep filling out these forms with Philip Sexton, and we'll get the problems addressed.